What's up, everyone? Welcome back, episode 2. One that we maybe should have waited for a while to bring on is our first guest. Someone that I think is awesome that you guys are going to love. He's got some great work he does, and he's just a great dude. So we've got Caleb Jeffries of Rawhide Golf here. He is awesome. He makes awesome products. He's awesome to play with. I've got a great story about the first time we met, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So welcome, Caleb.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I maybe question the story of when we first met. Maybe not my best moments, but that's okay.
So Caleb and I met recently. It hasn't been too long. I'm lucky enough to be friends with someone that he's also friends with, Clayton Brown. He hosts an event here in Dallas called the Brown Cup. He's hosted it. I think this was like the 4th year, maybe something like that, maybe
Fifth,
longer.
Yeah, I think the 5th. Yeah.
It was a super awesome event. Lots of people in the golf industry there. Great golf was played. Great friendships were made. And that's kind of what Wholesome is about, and what we one of the things I really enjoy about golf. So the first day we played at Frisco Lakes, and Clayton had texted me and said, "Hey, Caleb's in your group. You already know who he is." I had already followed him on social media, and he said, "Go have fun with him." I said, "Perfect." So he rolls up to the first tee, and we haven't discussed this yet, but Caleb's from Canada. He came all the way to Dallas for the event. And as you guys are well aware, the weather's not the same in Canada as it is in Dallas, especially in August. So he rolls up, first tee. I don't even think he would hit a ball yet.
No.
Just straight out of the car, straight to the tee. And, in the same, golf fashion that I normally have. So I respect that. And we hop on the first tee, kind of all hit it out there. He pumped the first one, I believe, out of bounds, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And it's a match play event, so he's got a match against the guy in the group. And he, for the first 8 holes or so, 9 holes, I guess it was 9 holes, because right when we made the turn, it changed. He got down, I believe, 4.
Yeah.
And then started battling his way back. But the whole time he's trying to dry his hands off, because in Canada, he doesn't need a glove.
Yeah.
So,
well, the backstory there is growing up in the Pacific Northwest, Freddie Couples was the man. So thus, my dad doesn't wear a golf glove. I don't wear a golf glove, but in the humidity like that, I kind of learned my lesson.
He definitely got the bad draw as well. It was one of those weeks in August where it rained like a tremendous amount, and then it was 100 degrees. So the humidity was high, the sweat was coming, and it was tough. It was just tough out there. So he made the turn, I think, at 3 down.
Yeah. Sorry. No, it was 3 down, and then a couple birdies, and then closed it out just barely.
Well, going to the 10th tee, we grabbed him a glove, and a complete game changer. The front 9, he looked like at 8, 10 handicap. Back 9, he looked like a +5. I don't think anyone would have ever even thought to do something like this, much less been able to pull it off like you did. So I'll touch base on what it is, and I'll let you kind of talk about it. But he had a Wilson staff bag and an old Wilson staff bag. So we're talking, I can't remember what the
fat shaft.
Fat shaft staff bag. So I think it released before I started playing golf. But what you guys don't know about Caleb yet, unless you follow him, he is, not only does he make awesome stuff, but he will paint things, and he painted on this bag. And I'll kind of let you touch base on it, because it was awesome.
Yeah, so I have a buddy who works at a pro shop down in Vancouver where I grew up. So he had a couple old staff bags, and I painted one or maybe a handful of staff bags kind of previously. I did a Ken Griffey kind of bag. I did I've done a couple different kind of painted golf bags, but so he gave me a couple free golf bags, and I had this Wilson one kicking around. And I was just thinking, well, what would work well with Wilson? It was kind of the red, black, and white. And then I was like, well, one of the guys who was a Wilson athlete through Wilson basketballs was Michael Jordan. So I started that, and I think it probably took me a couple months to get it like finally complete. And once I knew I was going down to Brown Cup and that Clayton's connection with Wilson Golf and all that, I was like, I got to get this done and get this down there. So it was stuff like that's always fun to do, because it's just like the head cover is a great blank canvas, and then in addition to that, a staff bag is an even bigger blank canvas to work on.
Yeah, super. It was awesome. I mean, it's one of those things, you see it and it's jaw dropping, like the talent he has. And I'll show you guys. So Caleb has sent me a couple of things, and something that I think I'll use as long as I can, maybe until I mess it up. But I'm a big Derek Jeter fan, and I mentioned that to him, and he so just an example of what he did Michael Jordan on the bag. And I want to show you guys this through the YouTube channel, how good it will look, or how good it looked on the bag. So I'll show you the Jeter one. And I mean, it's pretty spot on. You can tell it's Jeter
pretty
from
legit.
a long ways away. And,
yeah, it's legit.
So I love it. I think it's incredible. Caleb, I can't thank you enough for this. I have been a Jeter fan forever, and it really it's going to be great on the golf bag. So I hope a lot of you guys see these and you start to realize how amazing Caleb is and his talent, and you start to reach out. I think it would be very beneficial to your golf bag. So Brad, I think you should probably see if he'll paint your face on your driver cover.
I don't think that anybody wants to see my face, much less see it multiple times when they're out on the golf course.
So throughout Brown Cup, it was a few days long. Caleb and I got to know each other really well, thanks to Clayton, and it was a blast. And we stayed in touch, and he's done some other work for me. I know most of you guys know that I have a foundation for Hannah and my son Hank, and so I've got those here as well. And super awesome. He just crushes it. Any idea I have or he has, he does great. So I've got one that's a surprise for Brad. He's seen a sneak peek, so it's not a super surprise. But Caleb sent us this one as well, and I can't wait to see it on a golf bag. So for those of you that can't see, it's a wholesome head cover, and the quality of the work is second to none, and it's awesome. So I think what we've decided is on the golf course we'll have a head cover match, and every time someone wins, they get to take the head cover. So I'm obviously going to start with it because it's already in my hands. Sorry, Brad.
The potential of any sort of professional golf and myself was never an option from the day I picked up a club. So we had to kind of a new strategy. But no, I grew up, got introduced to the game kind of in my late teens. Quickly started playing some good golf. Was passionate about the game. It was a great way to connect with my father. I think like a lot of people, as a teenager, you're trying to find that connection. So that was something that we just bonded over. Went to university, kind of long story, ended up in the finance industry, started to get kind of back into golf after not pursuing it at a university level. I just kind of hung up the sticks for a while, got back into it. And then, I don't know what really drove me into it, because it's been a few years, but I was looking at, I had like the TaylorMade R15. It was a couple years old, but looking at the head cover, it was extremely short in terms of how high up the neck it was. Your irons are literally rattling into it. Looked at buying a custom head cover. It was a little bit challenging being in Canada, looking at all of it, and then started to kind of explore, my mom had a variety of different manufacturing companies. So she had the industrial sewing equipment, had all this. So I went to a old furniture manufacturer, bought some of their like offcuts, made kind of like the Frankenstein version. I still have it somewhere. It's not very good. But then just kind of like just started working on it. I think the thing that actually drove me and where I've kind of finally got the company to now is I was looking at a lot of the custom sneaker artists, like the guys that paint the NFL cleats for the NFL.
Yeah, what is it? Nomad Custom?
Yeah, well, no, yeah. So there's Nomad. There's Mosh is another who does.
Yeah.
He's like a big Vikings guy. So I was looking at what these guys are doing, and I was like, that's incredible. Like, that could totally be done on a head cover. Now, I didn't initially start in painting head covers. I mean, it's still, a small overall percentage, because if I hand painted every single product that I did, you'd
Cool.
have, there would be no ability to scale. So I utilize like embroidery, laser cutting, hand cutting, like leather applique and stuff like that. But in terms of like, I think the initial, sort of interest was like, hey, take what these sneaker artists are doing and bring something like that to golf. So you're able to bring in different elements. I mean, I've done, kind of hip hop inspired, athletic inspired. I mean, all these different, cultural things that really come down to golf. And I had no idea where, how it would grow. I mean, initially I made, one for myself, then it was like one for a buddy. A bunch of the guys that I grew up playing golf with were in the golf industry, so got into a few pro shops, got onto a couple PGA Tour players' bags through some relationships, guys that I know that are on tour, and then it just kind of grew from there. And golf's such an incredible sport that if you've got this head cover that kind of tells a story, it's on your bag for 4 hours, so it's going to kind of come in discussion. So it's all been word of mouth. That there really hasn't. I mean, I haven't made any real sales calls myself. It's just lots of different introductions. So started it was really a hobby business. It started to kind of consume our apartment. Now it's I'm coming on 2 years of doing it full time. I've got a handful of employees, and I still love doing what I do. And especially getting down to say Clayton's event and getting to meet and interact with people, because doing stuff online is great, but as you get out to these events and can actually bring out your products, it's that's really where it all kind of comes together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, having you at Clayton's event, seeing the talent that you had, I'm sure you're going to get so many people reach out to you, because there's a lot of people in the golf industry. There are a lot of people that have cool, unique careers in golf, and they're gonna need some help there. So, yeah, I think obviously you've done a great job, and you've scaled fairly quickly. I mean, 2 years full time, and you're growing the brand. And I mean, I love to see it. I love what you're doing, and I hope to get some more action down here in the United States, really, especially in Texas. So we'll keep working together. So.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's so big. I mean, Canada, like, we've got a shorter golf season. We've got all this. I mean, we've got lots of great courses. I always say that to everybody. It's like, I mean, Canada geographically is a massive country. I mean, most of us reside pretty close to the US border just for trade reasons. But I mean, I'm in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I mean, just there's so many great golf courses up here. I mean, whether it's in Vancouver or you drive down to Seattle, but the original idea with the company when it was a hobby business was it was like, this is a way to play golf, travel. Like, it was like, hey, this will be like, if I make a little bit of money, I'll spend this to go travel and play courses, meet people. It's grown way bigger. I mean, the possible opportunities of different private courses to play through members that I've done stuff for, et cetera, is bigger than I would have ever dreamed. So it's just trying to find that, like everybody, right, that fine balance of working in the golf industry, but also etching out the time to make those golf trips and actually get out and golf. Because ironically, since starting it, I golf less because I'm busy, but that's just
So busy.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a business owner, there's just so many facets to it. But again, I enjoy it, and it's like, I'm close enough to golf. I mean, I've had near torturous events where I've gone down to, say, Las Vegas, been on premise for a tournament. So I'm sitting there at Shadow Creek watching PGA Tour pros and people playing their groups, and I'm like, this is not very, very fun, because I mean, that course is just pristine, right? And like, That's
Right.
one thing when you're in your workshop and you're not staring at people golfing, but when you get out to these events and stuff like that, that's where you go like, can't I, can I not play in this?
Yeah, it's tough.
uh, so something you touched on a little bit there is like some of the people that you've worked with. I know a few just from speaking with you and talking with you about it, but who would you say has been well, let's go the most famous person that you've worked with, and if you don't want to throw them out there, you don't have to, but I think most of them are probably pretty friendly with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I've done like a bunch of different executives of different companies and stuff like that. But I mean, the stuff that's more interesting to me is obviously like the professional athletes. I mean, I've
Right.
worked with different PGA Tour pros. Like I've worked with Bryson. I've worked with, I mean, out of Texas, there's Bryson, Dylan Fratelli, Kramer Hickok, a bunch of those guys. And I mean, some of it is just you meet one and they introduce you to the other, but the ones that are bigger to me is like I did stuff for Ken Griffey Jr., which I alluded to in doing that golf bag. So through a friend of a friend in Florida, I got a phone call from him, which growing up in the Pacific Northwest, like with the Mariners and, being born in the late 80s, like he's the man. So that was cool. A bunch of NFL players, a lot of guys that are currently playing. And I think what's really interesting is just how many athletes are playing golf now. Like, and I think that the Last Dance probably just took it to a whole other level. Like, and without avoiding the question, like I've done stuff for like a Devonte Adams and all this, but so many of these guys golf throughout the season, and watching the Last Dance with Jordan, a guy who's at his absolute peak in terms of his athleticism, what he was doing, he's out on the golf course multiple times a
Right.
week during that run. So it's I would have never pegged the NFL as like a really big market, it's funny, you think I'd have more exposure to NHL players being in Canada, but just the way the brand's kind of gone, and once you do, a cover for one and they kind of post it, reshare it, it just kind of takes off. And the pivot that I made a couple of years ago is I stopped really trying to work with PGA Tour players because I mean, you would know, Connor, it's just, the OEMs pay money to own these guys' bags. So for me to
Right.
try to continue to slip in, I mean, there's only a few equipment free agents that have, the ability to pick any of their 14 clubs, throw whatever head covers they want on. So it's always a battle. So I found, I'd be better off to work with an NFL player who has no contractual obligation to any club cover company versus trying to push through the PGA Tour where you've got multiple different competitors, whether that's Stitch Golf, et cetera, that work there. And to be,
Right.
if you're not on premise to really kind of manage it, it's it can be a lot. So for me, it's just, I mean, I don't actually actively reach out to these individuals, but I just figure it's like being on like a Devonte Adams bag is potentially more influential than being on a smaller tour player's bag, just because of their sort of reach, following, and if you can do something for them, I think it's also kind of a cool story, right?
Well, and I think you
Yeah.
look at it too from the perspective of like the PGA Tour is only so big, and you start looking at like the NFL or other leagues like that where you get on one guy's bag, one guy turns into there's 52 guys on a roster in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
you get one connection there, and it could turn into weaving through, and I think too like the uniqueness around it is so cool. Of just how the organic of I guess the organic nature of the connections, I think, is what really speaks to the quality of the head covers that you make, that you're not having to go out and really push. It really is true word of mouth marketing, which is, to me, is a credit to the quality and of the product, which as I've seen in visuals and pictures, whether it's on your Instagram or even through Connor, I mean, they're pretty legit. And not gonna lie, I'm pretty jealous and excited to get one in the bag, because they're pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, and in the early days, it was really easy to kind of say this person came through this person. Like it was like, okay, like, somebody sends me an email in Kansas. Well, there's one person I did something for in Kansas. I probably know where this comes from. But once it kind of grows and scales, you have no idea where it's kind of coming through outside of if somebody says, hey, such and such sent me. You know what I mean? So it's been kind of fun. So like I say, I sell internationally. So the US is probably my biggest market, even bigger than Canada, just for the individual one-off stuff. That's because you guys are about 10 times bigger than us, but do stuff kind of around the world. And it's, I'm very blessed in the sense that, I could sit here and try to come up with different ideas, but so much of, if you look at, my work, it's people that are ordering these things, right? Yes, I've got my, kind of creative nature, but I get some people that just give me like kind of home run projects, right? Like somebody comes to me and like, and giving me the kind of creative freedom to kind of run with it. But at the end of the day, it is a customer driven business, right? So it's like the ideas that they come up with. There's a few things that I've done where I'm like, I would have never guessed that something like that would have been as popular as it was. And, it was just a random request from a customer, because I feel like as I get older, and I'm not that old, but I'm becoming more and more detached from what's kind of popular and cool. So it's my customers that kind of keep me, I guess, hip. I don't think hip is a hip thing to say anymore.
We're all there. We're all losing the trendiness of what's actually happening. And I thought it was interesting too that you said that some of these home run type of projects you've done. So maybe kind of loop in the viewers on kind of some of those projects that you've done, or some of those unique head covers that you've gotten a chance to work on that turned out to be a massive success, or you just thought like, whoa, this is a really, really cool project and I really, really enjoyed working on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've done lots of kind of like they call it repurposing. So I've taken apart a ton of different like luxury bags. That was one that one random customer literally shipped me a bag and said, hey, can you cut this up and make it into head covers? That was followed by baseball gloves. And I wasn't the first person to cut up a baseball glove and make it into a head cover, but I did one for a former manager of one of the MLB teams, whereas I think the actual original glove was from like 1967. So there's things like that have a really cool story. I think he was the Dodgers and Astros manager or something. So I'd have to go back and get the the exact position, but stuff like that. So more recently I did a random when Kanye West went on an absolute tear on his, I think it was like Instagram or something like that. He had to post a sign of him holding up saying like my account wasn't hacked. I did that. I'm unbelievable how many people like that. I'm a big Kanye fan, but I don't necessarily know all the pop culture stuff behind it, right? I like his music, not necessarily, all the other stuff that the chaos that he creates. So, stuff like that, right? There's so many stories kind of throughout time, and, one thing leads to the next project, and you can kind of see that. Like you can see me tackling something and then it's like followed up a few weeks later with something else, right? Like so there's momentum that's in the business where if I do one baseball glove cover, you get X amount of direct messages with people saying, hey, can I ship you my baseballs, gloves? And then it's like, then you start taking that, and eventually, I only post a mere fraction of what I actually work on. And I'm kind of terrible at doing the social media side. Like I definitely could be doing a lot more, especially behind the process of how I make it. But it's really tough when you're doing something to step away from what you're doing, step up, take a picture and post it. You sometimes just are like, I just want to get this done. So
yeah,
almost need like a little intern over my shoulder or something like that.
We will send Brad up there. He can be your intern.
Yeah, there we go.
I'd have way too much fun with that.
Yeah, I think speaking of like your uniqueness, just scrolling through your Instagram, you can scroll through there for quite a bit of time, and it's awesome. So I encourage any listener to hop on there and take a look. I'm a big Will Ferrell fan, and you've done some really cool stuff around some movies and things like that that are awesome. So
so many great characters to pick from, right?
so we've heard a lot about kind of what you do and your career path and how you got here, and it's awesome. So I want to hear some things about you personally, about your golf life. Something that I ask the other guys, and basically every guest will get these questions, is I want to know your favorite course and where it is, what it is. If you have a favorite hole, I want to hear about it. And then I want to hear a bucket list course, but you cannot choose Augusta.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you'd be crazy to not have that one on the list. Although I do know quite a few people that have played it, so which is like another story. So, yeah, no. So probably my favorite course. Not, I mean, I've been fortunate to play a lot of nice courses, but I do think it would probably be Pacific Dunes, just down obviously in Bandon.
Okay.
Favorite hole might be number 11, I think it is. It's the second of the two par threes. I mean, I just think it's just such a fun hole. It's a flip wedge, but when you throw like a 4-club wind on there, I mean, well, it's quite often coming across, like it's like start it over the Pacific Ocean, then try to, just hit this, like, I mean, if you're trying to carry it to the flag, it's like a peninsula. I mean, I've my dad hit a shot like literally off the toe, like a near shank that went up this slope and kind of came down to like whatever it was, 5 feet. And I was like, there's no way you were trying to hit that. So, I mean, I've played, like I say, I've played a lot of great golf courses, but it's obviously, there's so many things that go into a golf experience. I mean, there's a lot of courses you could play that are architecturally amazing, but like the culture behind it isn't as much fun. I mean, there's certain private clubs. I mean, I've played a lot of different private clubs and a member at one, but there can sort of be it's fun, but there's kind of a cap on how much fun you can actually have. Whereas like when you're down there, it's pure golf. I mean, all the courses are great, but I mean, again, I think a nice kind of sunny, windy, like, because you want wind down there. I mean, it'd be nice to play no wind, but like if you play links golf, you want there to be some wind. I mean, if you went out and played St. Andrews and there wasn't like any wind whatsoever, I feel like you'd be kind of cheated. So yeah, I would say Pacific Dunes. I know you're doing a trip down there, Connor, and I've got another trip coming up, and it's unbelievable. And you kind of scratch your head going, I don't know which course is my favorite, because they all kind of blend into one. But yeah, I would say Pacific Dunes. In terms of probably number one on my bucket list, like, would be Sand Hills in Nebraska. So I've got a bunch of buddies that have played a number of the top 100 courses, and like for most of them, that's kind of like number one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some of the guys haven't played Augusta, but for those that have played a bunch of the great courses, like within that top 100 list, a lot of guys just have a lot of good things to say about Sand Hills, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like it's a Corin Crenshaw design, which I've only played one or two of their courses. But I mean, again, they're brilliant in terms of their architecture, and it's just the whole experience. I mean, kind of like a band, and it's like you go out there and you can't order chicken. It's like it's got to be beef. It's got it has a lot of like identity behind it. So I think Sand Hills, and the rumor was that you could get on there by writing the owner like a personal, because it's like an ultra private club. But if you write him a personalized note at the beginning of the year, like essentially you can get a pass and say, hey, here you go. I don't know if he's removed that because of people. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about it, but
note to self.
Yeah. Well,
I do have a friend that has done that. Actually, he's from Canada.
Okay, there you go.
And he played college golf in Nebraska. He played in Omaha, and I believe he took his dad, and it was like, hey, I want to give this to my dad, and he wrote a note to the owner, and they let him do it. So
yeah. And I mean, I know a lot of guys who've played. I mean, I know I've met people that have played the top 100 like in the US, and I've met guys that have played a number close to it. And it's like, I mean, as much as it's about the golf, it's kind of about the journey, about how you get there, right? I mean, it's like, and as soon as you start tapping in and you start playing the whatever private course, it's like 30% of the members at, I think it's Cypress, are members at Augusta, or it's 30% of the members at Chicago are also members here, right? Because that's just how it kind of works. So once you kind of get in there, I mean, you can You can do it at any which pace. But I've always said, like, if I ever got the opportunity to play Augusta, I think I would want to be much older, play a lot more courses, be a lot more seasoned, and then do it. And I know it seems ridiculous, but I know, I mean, quite a few people that have actually played it, and every one of their stories is like unfrickin' believable.
Right. Yeah, I've heard some amazing ones from there as well. Obviously, it's I didn't let Brad and Ryan on the first pod. I didn't let them pick Augusta either for a bucket list.
Yeah.
Just because it's like it's on its own pedestal. Obviously, we all want to play it.
Yeah, but a guy I know was there the day he was playing. The lady he was playing with had the first ever, it was like female hole in one on number, I think it was 16. She hit the driver and it came down. So I was like, man, like a special experience with that as well. Like I was like, they had the champagne. I was like, man, like it's like already a special day, and then like you do that. I was like, that just takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah, that's you can't buy that experience. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's priceless, and that's the beauty. And that's the beauty of a lot of those experiences too. Like you talked about, like some of these experiences, like it may not be top 10 golf course in the United States, but the experience, honestly, and I know that Connor and I are both kind of like that. Of like, we enjoy good golf experiences on good golf courses, but good golf experiences completely change the mindset and the thought process of how you feel about a golf course in itself, because the golf course is kind of just 4 hours of what you're doing there, but in reality, or 5 hours, depending on who you ask. But in reality, like everything else that it encompasses, well, Connor just got back from Pinehurst and playing the Cradle and having the par 3 course. And that's, I think, something that we're starting to see a lot in a lot of these other golf courses, and is them really tapping into the experience instead of just only focusing on the golf. And so I think that's a cool thing to know.
Yeah, and I don't play golf courses the way they're traditionally supposed to be played. I mean, I often play like, and I'm multiple fairways over, and you know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of it's like, oh, like, what do you think about hole 7? I was like, well, outside of the tee box and quickly getting back to the green, like, I didn't touch hole 7. I was actually, I was getting a preview of 13 or something like that, right? So
yeah, let me tell you about 13. That fairway was awesome.
Yeah.
When I was playing back into 7, and then when I came back to 13, hold on, let me tell you about 7, because I hit it back into 7 when I didn't hit it there earlier.
Love it. I
love
always
that.
think, right,
that's how I play.
Outsmart the architect, and that's the interesting thing about golf now. Like, if you hit the ball a long way, you get to a lot of these traditional courses. I mean, they got to start planting different trees and start blocking out, because it's like sometimes if you play a course enough times, you learn it's like, I'm better to blast it down this fairway. It's a better approach shot, maybe, more into the slope, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I can't say that every time I do it is on purpose to try to beat the architect, right? Sometimes it's just something up here.
Well, we'll give you credit. What is the lowest round you've ever shot?
It was 68, 4 under. So, and it was funny, I had never broken par prior to that.
So I
had a lot of close rounds. Like, I mean, there's nothing worse than being probably like, not for you, Connor, because you're a good golfer, but like I've been, -1 with like 2 to play, and like you tighten up. I've been even where you're trying to like force something so that you get that red figure. Whereas like, I think I had 6 birdies that day, and like I was cruising, and and then I started missing a few too. Like, like I say, on the back 9, I mean, I had multiple opportunities that I could have gone lower, but I just remember I was crying on 18, like just because, like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's, and that's the fun thing about golf too, is like, for somebody that's trying to break 80, right? There's these different thresholds, and once you do it, it's like the 4-minute mile, right? The first guy ran the 4-minute mile, and then, shortly after that, somebody does it, right? I mean, same thing with these PGA Tour pros, right? They watch a guy and they're like, man, he shot 61 today. And then you just see, like, the guy went out in the morning, did that. There's a bunch of lower scores because people are like, all of a sudden, this course is gettable, right? It's like,
Yeah.
So as soon as you can cross those thresholds, and you see so many people that just can't break through. Now it's not like I shoot under par on it. Like it's just to do that all of a sudden, like there's that weight off, because it felt like something that, it felt like it was impossible, right? There's too many strokes to give away.
Right. It's like when you were a kid and you were playing that video game and you couldn't beat the boss, and you had to just keep playing it, and then eventually you get it. So for me, it took me a long time to break par, and now every time my goal, basically, unless it's something crazy, my goal is typically to break 70. And then if if you get it going the other direction, oh no, okay, well let's try and shoot even par, make a couple birdies, try and shoot even par. So that threshold you're talking about is awesome. And I think that's one thing that's super cool about golf, is like guys that are friends that are of mine that didn't pick it up until college or whatever else, later in life, they could be fighting to break 100 for the first time or 90 for the first time, and it doesn't matter. No one cares what you shoot, right? And that's something that we just don't. No one cares. We just want you to have fun, and it's you're battling golf itself.
Yeah, no, and I mean the way I kind of look at it, and just changing my outlook. I mean, when you first start golf is fun, and I say this because like I was whatever 14, 15. I went to the driving range with my dad. He was a low single digit handicap. So, I had the fundamentals just in going to the driving range. But the first time I played, I broke 100 on like a, proper course. And then, I think it was within a couple months I was shooting in like the high 70s. That's when golf's fun, because like, you continue to improve. But, my goals now are like, it'd be nice to break par, every decade from here on out.
Yeah.
And if you have that longer term goal, because so many people have these short term goals, and then are constantly trying to, push, right? It's like, oh, I have to take this shot. I have to take this. Whereas like, if you can have that patient approach where you just say, hey, so many people like, I need to fix this in a season. I mean, it's like, well, how many hours are you putting in? Right. Whereas like, doing, longer term goals, I think is with golf, and that's the beauty of the game, because you can play it for so long, right? It's like, I'm 32. So it's like in this sport, I mean, my golf is still ahead of me, and I continue to get better just through being patient. I mean, when I was young, it was a lot of club throwing. It was like, you get down.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I used to play against my dad, and like I'd shoot something in the 70s in like a school match, and then I'd go out and shoot 95 against him. Playing match play, down 1, down 2, trying to force things, and then just blow up. So it was like, I mean, it's good, but once you get like over that hump, you know what I mean? It's a tough game, but it's not as tough as some people make it, right?
Right. Well, from the head cover man himself, we want to know what's on your bag. And for the YouTube viewers, if you don't mind showing it, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And let me tell you something about Caleb. He's not going to show his driver, because it might still be that R9 that he played years ago.
I know. My equipment is a bit dated. So driver, I've got Ice Cube.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just enjoy listening to Ice Cube. So and then fairway wood, I've got Dennis Rodman. So I mean, it's funny because I only recently put like newer covers on my bags. I had like an old kind of Kanye one, and that I probably had on there for 3 years, plus another kind of random one. And it's kind of like the plumber with like the leaky faucet, right? Like, I've got so many other projects that are on the go that I never really get to do the ones for myself, right? So at some point I'll have to make an upgrade, give it a couple years.
Yeah. Well, those are awesome. Obviously, it's amazing work. It's awesome talent. It's something that I would never be able to do. I can barely write my name to where someone can read it. So the fact that you can paint on leather or whatever material and make it look so real is just amazing to me. So I appreciate you. I have greatly enjoyed our friendship. even though it hasn't been super long. But I can't wait to watch you continue to grow and be a part of it, and send people your direction, and just watch the things that you come up with, because it's truly special, and it's fun to see. So we appreciate you, and we're thrilled to have you on. I know you're guest number one, and you probably deserve to be in a much higher role, but we really appreciate you coming on and doing this with us.
Yeah, no. Thank you very much for having me. And based on the front nine that you watched me play, maybe the first guest makes perfect sense, right? The quality, the caliber of golf will only go up across these individuals, right?
I don't know. That back nine you played was awesome. So we'll do it again. Can't wait to play golf again. Maybe we'll come up to Canada and not sweat so much.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah,
maybe we can meet at Cabot.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know that's the East Coast, but that's something that's on my list as well.
Gotta play it. I've heard so many great things. So maybe we'll meet up there someday. But
yeah,
we appreciate you.
No, thanks again for having me, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Caleb.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Bye now.